Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. We're down to it. NFL Championship weekend. We got the AFC. We got the NFC, which people are, more down on than anything. We'll be breaking down the games going over last week, plus a few things at the end. Do not be afraid to give the episode a like or subscribe to the audio version and leave a rating, which really goes a long way. It's all I'm asking from you, the peoples out there. You can get that on the regular sources on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, but now on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Please go sub, even if you don't listen. Just go sub and download. It still counts for me either way. It really helps the show. Geoff Fienberg's here. What's up?
I'm great, Pat. Excited. To me, this
Do you download the podcast?
I just watch it.
You go to the YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should just put it on your iTunes, too, and just be like, bloop.
It's true. If anyone should be giving it the number, the +1 bump, it should be me. And season finale of football this weekend. Because the Super Bowl's like special features on the DVD.
It's its own kind of thing.
Yeah, so... Like, once you're watching a game with, like, your wife's friends, and I go to a great party, the day is turned, but the season's over. That's sort of how I feel.
Well, you'll hear more dialogue about the commercials than anything that's actually going on in the actual game. You do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm excited to recap last week. I'm excited to jump into this one.
All right, well, let's get to that. So, as of last week, there was never a week that was more undercursed by one man. And that man, Tim Undergust!
Tim Undergust.
That's not my name. And listen, Saturday I hit it out of the park.
And congratulations, Tim.
I went 2 for 2. I went 2 for 2 last week. I'm 4 for 4 and 4 in the playoffs. That's not bad.
You're actually 4-3-1 in the playoffs.
Oh, that's right. There's a push in the New Orleans game. There you go. So I got a winning record. So there is no curse. Let's move along.
Yeah, maybe the curse gods were napping during the Philly game. Like they didn't wake up till Sunday, maybe.
Yeah.
Because lucky to that part of Pennsylvania for surviving the weekend.
Yeah. So the Eagles, we talked about it on the show last week. I think you ended up taking Atlanta.
Did.
Tim and I both took Philly, and the sharp side was Philly last week. It was one of those things where you look at it, you're like, well, 99% of people are betting on Atlanta in this spot. Just go the other way. And I feel like that might be developing this week, too.
I'll be in the same spot.
All right, let's reel back a little bit, and let's talk about Sunday a little bit. Because after Tim proclaimed that Jacksonville had a 0% chance of winning the game in Pittsburgh, we both bet the Jags' money line.
We did. And his whole take, it was kind of insulting. When he said Tennessee upset would surprise him less. Jacksonville having 0 chance. I don't know.
All right,
I don't know what game he was watching.
I want to run it back in terms of Tim here. Tim, let me ask you this. So, what was your early Sunday like once the Jags jumped out to a big lead? Because I saw you tried to reverse curse yourself, but no one was having any part of that. We knew what you were up to.
I was watching with people and just taking heat because of the various picks. And the only point where it was 21-7, and the Jags had dropped a couple of bobbled picks and stuff. And I said to 2 of my friends that this game is 21-7, and Jacksonville has not had a break in this game. I swear, the next play was the fumble return touchdown for Jacksonville. And at that point, I just shrugged my shoulders and went, well, this game just did not go to script. And I was wrong. I mean, if you had told me that Pittsburgh was going to score 42 points and Ben was going to throw 6 touchdowns, if you consider the backwards pass basically a throwing touchdown, and they were going to lose the game, I mean, I would never have believed it. It was just a weird, wonky game.
Well, you couldn't believe it anyway. You said that they had a 0% chance of winning.
I didn't expect Jacksonville to call offensively the most perfect game I've ever seen an NFL offensive coordinator call. It was unbelievably perfect. Everything went exactly as it should have. Blake Bortles didn't ruin the game, and they didn't put him in a lot of spots to ruin the game. That Madden call where he threw it to the fullback up the middle. I mean, that's just a brilliant play, and it was
Great
marvelous to steal the game.
Also, credit.
Hold on one second. It's a great play call in real life. Terrible Madden play call.
Okay,
on the goal line,
Sorry.
It's an unstoppable.
No, it's not. You don't throw to your fullback in Madden. This is why you suck at Madden.
In Madden, the fullback wouldn't even be able to escape the line of scrimmage clean. He would be fumbling down. You're absolutely right. And credit, forgotten in all that the whole game was Balls Maroney. It was 4th and a full 2 at the goal line to start that game, and they went for it. And got it.
They did it against the Bills, too, and that was the difference. So I think they know that it didn't end up turning out to be that way in that game because they scored 45 points. They had a ton of scoring opportunities. But when you're the Jags and you get in that close and you have such an attacking defense that even if you do turn it over on downs from the 1 or 2 opposing yard line, you feel like you're going to get the ball back at midfield.
84% of NFL coaches kick that field goal on the road, don't want to cede momentum immediately in a playoff game.
It was a smart play.
So I, as much as I agree, and the math says you go for that, for sure.
But I think even as Jacksonville, that it makes more sense for them to go for, because generally speaking, they don't have the most explosive offense. And combined with their defense, they can still set themselves up for the 3 later on. And you get that 7, knowing you're the underdog on the road. Like, they deflated the crowd right away. And we saw it at the beginning of the Saints and Vikings game. Like, the crowd was rattling Drew Brees. They couldn't make switches at the line. So when the Steelers crowd gets all fired up and Blake Bortles is trying to do stuff at the line, which probably isn't the greatest move to begin with anyway, but at least deflates them that there's no sound in the building anymore.
Fournette frustrated me too because I bet on his under rushing yards and bet on Bell's over, and that didn't work out. Because, Fournette could move the ball against Buffalo, and 60% LaShawn McCoy absolutely tore apart the Jaguars. So I just assumed, logic dictated that Bell should go crazy and that Fournette shouldn't. And I was just wrong about that Jaguars game, other than the fact that the defense is fraud. And that was, at least I was right about that. That defense is fraudulent. They gave up 42 points in a playoff game and won. How many teams have ever done that in NFL history? Has anyone ever done it? New England is a better
the fraud
offense
is Pittsburgh, man. They didn't beat anybody all year by more than 5 points in the second half of the year. They made a bunch of mediocre quarterbacks look very good, and they did the exact same thing. And I'm not here to make what it says about Buffalo. I hate that analogy. Miami beat the Patriots. The Patriots stomped the Bills twice. Like, there's no correlation to playing anybody. Fact of the matter is, a huge percentage of people just watching the Bills game, probably at halftime of Bills-Jags, said, I don't give a what. I'll bet Pittsburgh. And it backfired.
Oh, yeah. So that was bad enough to start off the day. We ended up cashing in on it. I know you had a big +9 bet or a +8.
Yeah, the 8-8, whatever.
And then I just cashed in on the money line.
Teaser. You were like parlaying it with like Masters futures.
Yeah, I parlayed it with Rory at the U.S. Open.
Oh, ridiculous!
I got Rory up to 41 to 1. So I'm very happy, and I won my bet on it anyway. So it was perfect.
Yeah. No.
So a winning weekend for me with the Eagles parlay with the under, and then just those 2 bets straight up, and then the money line on the Jags, and then parlaying with Rory is really nice. But then we get to the later game. I had no action on the later game. I only had investment. And Tim, I'm going to tell you this right now. My wife decided that she was going to watch football 3 weeks ago for the first time when she went to the Lions game. And she and one of my other friends' wives decided they're going to root for the New Orleans Saints because they like their jerseys. And she's very mad at you. You broke her heart.
Well, I have nothing against either the Saints or the Minnesota Vikings, but I'm sorry, I did not trust Case Keenum to win that game. And really, he didn't. It was the cornerback who took an outrageous... I've watched that play 100 times. It's clear what happened is that the corner was going to get there early and was trying to pull up to not commit pass interference because that could have lost the game for him as well. It was a weird... that game had 3 endings, and the Vikings twice did it. I give Minnesota their due that they won the game. That was amazing. But... I don't. My mentions blew up because I had picked on this show last week that the Saints would win 24-23. And when they kicked that field goal, I was taking a victory lap. There was only like 20 seconds.
Oh, no, hold on 1 second. I want to flash back to what Tim said about the cursed time slot that the Vikings were playing in last week. So let's watch that once again.
This is the heartbreak time slot. The 5:40 time slot on Sunday is the heartbreaker. And I'm going to go through a little bit of history here to explain to you why the Vikings, a tragic team in and of themselves, are just destined to lose this game. 06, Bears are favored at home, lose to a underdog Panthers. 07, a 14-2 Chargers team get knocked out by the Patriots at home as a favorite. In 2008, the Cowboys, as the number 1 seed, get knocked out by the Giants. The next year, the Steelers roll San Diego. The next year, a heavily favored Chargers team gets knocked out by the Jets. The next year, a heavily favored Patriots team gets knocked out by the Jets. The next year, a heavily favored 15-1 Packers get knocked out by the Giants. Patriots blow out the Texans. The Broncos, in a super close game, knock out the Chargers. The Broncos get knocked out by a
Is
heavily
he saying the
underdog
Bison
Colts the year
Porters are
after.
not imported?
Denver and Pittsburgh play a super close game in 16 that Pittsburgh wins if they aren't playing a third-string running back and backup quarterback. And then last year, Green Bay knocks out a relatively heavily favored Dallas team. This is the heartbreak spot. Year in, year out. The Vikings are already a cursed team in terms of their history, in terms of their luck. They will be. It doesn't matter what Philly does. The Vikings will be favored in every game they play this season, no matter who they play, even the Super Bowl. They'll be the favorite, and so everything is setting up for a Minnesota success story. Heartbreak and tragedy bestrikes them in a Shakespearean way against Drew Brees. A rematch of that. That NFC title game is probably the game that gnaws the most at Vikings fans against the Saints. Drew Brees was there. He gets him again. I think the Saints win on the field. I think they win it 24-23. That's very close.
So, Tim, you went through that entire spiel, and you cursed right off the bat the New Orleans Saints. And then, during the course of the game, Geoff, what did he send you through a DM?
Well, it was identical to the tweet he sent out. I guess sending out the tweet that he had predicted the right score wasn't good enough, that he had to personally tell me on the show he called the 24-23 number. It's so funny, Pat, that you just played the clip of how he put how this spot is just heartbreak written all over it. And not only did the Vikings win, they win in the most, insane Minnesota miracle, they call it, way. It was like the complete opposite of any heartbreak. It was, heartbreak was pending. Heartbreak was very much impending, and then it blew up. And what's so funny, Pat, is there's people, obviously you make new fans every week, every show. So there's people that are always new to your universe and this universe and the universe of Cust. And this is their pinnacle moment. They see this. They have no concept of Jordan Spieth at the Masters.
Or the Atlanta Falcons halftime of the Super Bowl last year.
They have no concept of any part of the past. And so many people, it's real. I didn't know. I thought you guys were joking. No, this thing is real.
I mean, there was little things like in the Pittsburgh game when Roethlisberger on that fourth down threw the ball, and I said in midair, there's no chance that can be caught, and it was caught for a touchdown.
I have a question about that play, though. Do you think they fluked into that touchdown? Because I think he was trying to throw it to Antonio Brown, and he overthrew it, and Martavis Bryant was just standing there.
Yes, I do.
The one before the half.
Yeah, the one right at the half, the 4th and 11.
Really bothered me.
And nice how Pittsburgh can convert 4th and 5s and 4th and 11s into touchdowns and can't convert a 4th and 1. Let's run a toss.
Yeah, the first time they pitched it out, and that was a disaster. Right. Ben says he just doesn't go over the top anymore. He's trying to protect his body.
I understand that. And neither does, I give my own guy, 17 Rivers, a hard time for it too. Since he tore his ACL, he does not do that.
Yeah, it's the playoffs, though.
That's the thing. In the
Brady
playoffs,
still doesn't.
Brady did it. Breeze had a big one too in that game. You do it. You got to do it. In the postseason, I get it. Week 5 versus the Browns, whatever. Give it to the fullback. Give it to Bell. Give it to the backup. Who cares?
There's two other things I want to say.
There's a time and a place where you got to do that. And he's got to hear the play call, and he's not got to pitch it right. He's got to say, he's the second tallest quarterback in the league. He's the fattest quarterback in the league. That's why they lost that game.
Is the Pillsbury throw boy no longer in the NFL? Jared Lorenzen.
No, he's long gone. I
think
he's in AFL Junior, AFL D-League.
He's back in Kentucky coaching the quarterbacks. So, Tim, what were your points that you wanted to make?
First, I was right that time slot is a heartbreaker. It just broke hearts in the wrong direction. And some random people this week on Facebook were trying to add me to Facebook, and their comments were, thank you for cursing the Saints to help out my Vikings, or thanks for helping the Vikings. People, I am thousands of miles away from the game. I can't control the outcome. Please.
Hold on for a second. You are correct, factually correct about you being miles and miles away from the stadium. So what's going to happen when you and I are at Super Bowl Radio Row in 2 weeks' time? Does that mean the curse is just going to really focus in on one of these teams?
I don't believe in the curse, so I don't think that will happen. Instead, we'll be able to do mall walks, and we'll be able to go to food courts, and it actually will be quite glorious. My other point I wanted to make was that Yeah, there were a lot of intervening picks in between, but on the preseason show, I said Minnesota would go 12-4 and win the NFC and go to the NFC title game, and they're in the NFC title
Tim,
game.
you picked
hold on.
9 teams.
Hold on,
You
no.
deserve hold on. You deserve no credit.
Hold on. He can't have his cake and eat
No,
it
you
too.
can't.
Because he also, it wasn't even me. There are people that are watchdogs on you, Tim, and I saw at least 5 tweets about the Jaguars going back to July.
That was me, actually.
What?
Yeah.
That was me retweeting this out.
As soon
Okay.
as you retweeted the first comment that was old, I went, "Oh no, there's going to be
so
more of
many.
these."
And then there, from the post, week 1, I think, where they put up the 42, like the Saxonville and all that. And remember early in the year when
Yeah, they killed
weren't
my
even
suicide week.
they
The
weren't
first
even
week-
the Jaguars to me. They were the college football all-stars. I wasn't even calling them the Jags through like September. But every point of the way, you were throwing cold water. So now you want a tweet about the Vikings to be dug up?
No.
Every Jags tweet gets to get dug up also then.
It's true, and I've already dug most of those
But that's
up.
already happened.
Sure, but the thing is, you're claiming victory on picking preseason the Vikings to go to the NFC Championship game, despite picking against them last week, and at some point of the season declaring like 9 other teams as your pick to win the
Well,
NFC.
yeah,
When you eventually pick everybody, then of course you're going to be right, Tim. You get no credit, zero credit from me and from anyone else.
I began my comment with, "There's been a lot of intervening picks in between."
No, but then why did you bring it up?
Well, I mean, I think
Because you want credit and you get none for it. Them's the breaks.
that's it. I just take all the heat, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Shakespeare would say, and I get none of the credit.
No, this is what you get for being the John Kerry of picks.
At what point, though, in that Jags-Steeler game, like after the block punt, I was certain that they were going to tie it.
I resisted
so
the
near.
urge
Oh,
to...
I even got Pittsburgh plus 6.5 points.
Yeah, you won both ways.
So that last touchdown was amazing.
But I saw a lot of people going after it, being like, "Oh, I'm betting Pittsburgh money line in game." And for the longest time,
I was with people
but
doing that.
for the longest time, like Vegas knew, like they were offering like even money when they were
Yeah,
down
they
by
were.
21. They're like, "Yeah, we do think that Pittsburgh's going to come back in this game." I resisted that urge. I was just like, "I'm in on Jacksonville. Let's do this."
It was even money when the Jags had the ball up 7. And then even before...
When they were down 21-7, it was like plus 105. Like,
it wasn't.
yeah, it was. I went and looked at it.
I was watching it close because I wanted, being on the other side, I was hoping for an opportunity. And then I made mine at halftime. I got nervous. That's when I bet the plus 6.5.
Yeah, at halftime, the odds did end up going up.
'Cause
But
I thought,
earlier
like,
on in that
Steeler-
game, they were still banking on the Steelers just marching back down the field.
Because I thought
can I
Steeler
say-
mythology was like...
Yeah, and people aren't, put it this way, people aren't lining, they knew that people were lining up to go to the book to live bet the Steelers. They'd already bet on the Steelers. People were going to try to either double down or middle their money or do
Yeah.
whatever. And the books were just having none of it, at least early in that game.
Tim?
Yeah,
That pass from Ben Roethlisberger backwards on the goal line was the nicest play in the NFL season. Even though we won't remember it because they lost the
Get
game.
out of town.
That was so intelligent, and that was such a marvelous play call. Decision on his part to throw that ball laterally as he was running, and they scored a touchdown on it. There's not 3 quarterbacks in the NFL who would do that. Who would even think to do that. That was an unbelievable
One
play.
of the best tweets I saw on Sunday was Roethlisberger losing as like a 9-point home favorite to the Jags was a great moment for the Me Too movement. That got me good.
had you laughing on the couch.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the games this week. So let's start with the AFC Championship game. We got the Jags traveling to the Patriots. The Patriots are 9-point favorites at home. The over-under in this game is 46 right now. I even went on Bovada to see if they had a more favorable Jacksonville line. They do not. They do for the other game, though. So -9 is a tricky number because I feel like this game is like 48-0 or the Jags win. Like, I think if they can keep New England to 20 or less, the Jags are live here. And I don't necessarily agree, Tim, with your point either, that you think that the Jacksonville defense is fraudulent by any means. They just happen to be up by 28 and basically in prevent the entire time. If they're attacking, they can do the same thing to New England as they did to the Steelers early on in that game.
I will say this, though, to sort of middle your point and Tim's point. Their weakness can be against tight ends and against running backs.
But I think that instead of putting
okay, you're right.
Jalen Ramsey on Chris Hogan, they'll just move him in and cover Gronk.
Sorry, and in that point, you're right. But those are things the Patriots seem to do really well. And Posluszny can get, like, the way you saw Vance McDonald sort of work his way. there's holes there potentially, but everything changes once they game plan around it. Much like I feel like they did versus the Chargers, even having Ramsey come in and play some Hunter Henry, which shows how much I think of Hunter Henry.
But it's also a big thing, too, is that against the Steelers, you had to account for Antonio Brown, you had to account for Juju or Martavis Bryant.
You got to let
Vance McDonald beat
you got to.
And they did, and it worked.
And it worked.
They're not taking that same strategy.
Especially when you're
Gronk.
up that many points. Have the 8-yard hook all day.
As someone who had a lot of Vance McDonald on Draftkings, I was all for it.
Great.
He was like the only guy around doing anything. Although we couldn't get in the end zone. That sucked. So, Tim, let's start with you. I assume you're picking New England in a way to curse them. But as we all know, and for people out there who really want Tim to take New England and say it's locked in stone, Tim's Ander curse does not work against the Patriots because he hates the Patriots so much. It just doesn't work. He goes out of his way to try to curse them, but only makes them stronger. So, Tim, tell us why New England has a 100% chance of winning this game.
Not 100%, 99%. So I'll be a little bit more measured. I mean, first, which are the Patriots homers running running the game clock again? Because you can be sure they'll get an extra couple of seconds like they did Saturday night against the Titans. I mean, I referred to last Saturday's game. We didn't talk about it much. Tennessee, New England. That game was the equivalent of Richard Nixon breaking into the DNC to steal information from George McGovern in the election. Like, he was already going to beat him by so much. You didn't need to. Has anyone in their lives ever seen a false start taken back, then changed to a encroachment and a first down given? Like, the amount of chicanery going on in that game was, unless you're just a complete ideologue for the Patriots, you can see that was a very poorly officiated game in the favor of the Patriots. Now, the NFL, who's having a lot of ratings trouble, do you really think that if push comes to shove, they don't care whether it's New England or Jacksonville in the Super Bowl? Of course they care. The Jacksonville Jaguars is the last team they want to see in the postseason. But let's get now to the nuts and bolts of it. 2 of the last 4 games the Jaguars have played. San Francisco hung 44 on them. Pittsburgh hung 42 on them. This defense the last several weeks of the year has been a bad defense. Not even above average, a bad defense. They're playing an offense in the Patriots better than either San Francisco or Pittsburgh. So the only path to victory, Jacksonville has 2 paths to victory. The first is they compel Brady to turn the ball over 2+ times. I don't think that'll happen. The second way would be they'd have to score 40+ again to beat him in a shootout. I don't think they're good enough to do that. I think the game plays out like 27-6, 27-10. Like, I just don't think that Jacksonville's defense can shut down the Patriots. In fact, I know they cannot. And I don't think their offense is good enough to put up enough points to beat the Patriots. I mean, unless Tom Coughlin can go into that room and help game plan the defense for how to pass rush Brady, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Belichick knows the type of defense he's against. He understands that Jacksonville is going to try to ruin the game up the middle and try to get into Brady's grill. They'll have him in shotgun. They'll prevent these problems. They can run the ball with one of the best running backs left in the NFL, in Lewis. I don't see a path for Jacksonville other than what I laid out. I think all the odds are stacked against Jacksonville. And again, it's Blake Bortles in the AFC Championship game. And who trusts Blake Bortles? Nobody. I mean, in the end, I don't know how you pick Jacksonville other than just to be a blind hope. It's New England, and it's New England not close.
So I think that the Jags, especially with Tom Coughlin around, can basically use those Giants game plans. Like,
off the spot.
Jacksonville doesn't need to blitz to get to Brady. They can generate pressure with their front 4. Like, that's not going to be a problem for them. And New England doesn't have the greatest offensive line, but they need to be able to get around the center and just get straight bull rush Tom Brady, get right up the middle and make him move to the right, make him move to the left. And if he's in shotgun, it's not going to make a difference either way. He's still going to have to move.
They'll have to do that, and you mentioned the recipe, the Coughlin Giant recipe, and when you are able to get to the pressure, when you're able to put pressure without blitzing, those linebackers are then in that range of Gronk and of the running backs out of the field, out of the backfield. Instead of trying to put pressure on the quarterback, Brady, getting him off his mark will be absolutely so key. I'm a total fence sitter on this one. Like, I kind of agree with you. I do believe the Jags can win the game, but I also believe they can lose 45-3.
Well, the big thing is, you know that Belichick is going to scheme to take Fournette out of this game, at least as much as possible, almost like what the Bills did to Fournette, and for some reason Pittsburgh was just completely unable to do. So then you put the hands in the game of Blake Bortles and trying to make these dink and dunk passes. I mean, I think they would be better off, and they tried this a few times against Pittsburgh, and I think it's going to be necessary to do it this week too, because if you turn it over, it's not the end of the world. Just take shots. Like, bomb it to Keelan Cole.
We
Bomb it
haven't
to
even
D.D.
seen
Westbrook.
the fake punt yet.
No, the fake punt is coming for the Jags.
They didn't have to pull it out versus Buffalo. They didn't have to pull it out last week. And yeah, you saw it. Balls Maroney, he's going to, just like the 4th and 2 at the goal line, they are not bringing field goals to a knife fight. Or I don't know if I said that right.
But I get what you're saying.
I think everyone gets where I'm going with that. It'll be really interesting. Can they get Brady off his spot? They do everything well to pull off the upset.
Now, conversely, from the New England side of the ball, the one thing that they can really do to sort of mitigate any impact that the Jags can do to them, the one spot where the Jags are weaker than in the past is obviously in the run. Tim mentioned Dion Lewis has been incredible so far, I mean, even over the past 2 months. And Burkhead might return as well. And then you have the James White factor. I mean, I can see them deploying James White the same way they did last week and the same way that you did in the Super Bowl last year, too. Like, they can really minimize the impact of Jacksonville's pressure just by getting the ball out quickly to those running backs.
The thing is, though,
the fact that Rex Burkhead is more expensive on DK than James White is so criminal, is so unjustifiable.
It's first and goal from the 1.
Yeah, it's the touchdown equity.
Yeah.
James White has a much better chance of scoring a touchdown than Rex Burkhead. Much better.
Well, no.
Playoff game the Patriots have played.
Yeah, but Burkhead's been hurt, right?
Burkhead didn't play last week, Tim.
Who has scored all of their last 2 playoff games of Patriots?
Burkhead wasn't on the team last year, Tim.
James White is 100%.
I don't disagree with Tim.
Burkhead over White, you're crazy.
But this is Burkhead's first healthy game, and the Patriots.
He's not even healthy.
Okay.
He's potentially available as of right now.
A part of playing Burkhead is playing into Patriot MO of like, it's always a different guy.
No, it's not even that. We saw when Burkhead was healthy that near the goal line, he's the guy that they throw the ball to. And
my other question about this game then becomes the number. Because could you not argue, does it just become down to, in hindsight, last week's Jags number was so bad? Because you can't say that the Jags are only like a point, that the Patriots are only a point better than Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you can. That's about right. You know, that's because if Pittsburgh and New England had played this week, it would have been like Pats -3.5. Or Pats -4. So yeah, I think that's about right. Those 2 teams played each other this year and they were dead even. So why would the line be that much different for this? I think that makes perfect sense.
Are they 4 points better than the Titans?
Oh, I think that
are they? I'm asking. I'm not saying that's how I feel.
I mean, we saw that this season. I think that
they've lost to them twice.
Yes, head to head, but thankfully they're not playing each other. And as you said earlier, these matchups don't have any bearing on how we analyze these teams.
I think this number is a short number. Like
it should be 12?
Yeah, like it should be. But the big thing is everyone just bet on Pittsburgh, watch Jacksonville go and steamroll the Steelers offensively, which no one saw coming. But now people think that they can do it to the Patriots too, or at least have the ability to put up points.
Okay, but here's the thing.
But that's why the number is what it is. They don't want to get burned again because they know people will bet on. If this number was 8, people would still bet on Jacksonville.
I'm wrong enough, but wasn't wrong. Pittsburgh wins all those games. The Packer game, the Colt game, a Brown game. They win all those games by field goals. The Patriots, just how like Pittsburgh didn't win by lots, the Patriots just shit kick people. So that's why I'm concerned. I didn't think Jacksonville was getting their ass kicked. Were they going to win? I didn't know. But I knew they weren't getting their ass kicked last week.
Well,
I'm a bit worried about that also this week, Pat. And here's the problem. I'm sitting on a Jags nice Super Bowl future. I got 0 hedge equity with this point spread. Nothing I can do. I need the Jags to get up 14, and then I'd be too greedy to do anything anyway.
Yeah, you guys were talking with that guy who's got the big ticket and with the Patriots win the Super Bowl.
Tim, I would advise you, before you say anything, don't say anything because you don't want to fuck up this guy's life.
Fine. I'll reserve my comment then.
Thank you. Let's see who the coin's going to take. How about that? Who do you think the coin's going to take, Geoff?
I don't know. The Patriots.
Ready? The coin is taking the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I also feel like, I don't know, anyone who had the Saints on the points kind of got screwed on the push on last week more than anything.
Why? I mean, they also got saved at the end, too, when Minnesota didn't kick the extra point.
That saved my teaser total.
Did it really?
53.5 was my number. And I knew they weren't going to kick it.
No, I knew they were
I
gonna
only
give
was
you-
worried that the Saints wouldn't have anyone out on the field,
They
so
would
you
just
don't
run it in?
kneel. You just, like, for jokes, like, backflip in.
So the coin is taking Jacksonville. Jeff, who are you taking?
I have a Jacksonville Jaguars Super Bowl future.
What is it at? 33? 28?
28.
28?
Yeah. And I made it because I thought the Bills were a bye week. And that was a tough as nails game for them.
I would have warned you against making comments like that. I've been burned more
No.
than once.
It already happened.
That's what I thought
I know,
in my
but-
head. Yeah, no, I thought,
In
yeah.
the future.
I have a question for Tim. What upset surprised you more, the Titan beating the Chiefs or last week's with Jacksonville?
Both two very Andercursed teams, though, so none of this should be surprising to anyone.
Well, both were bye weeks, free passes. Both the games shouldn't even have occurred.
I was more surprised by Pittsburgh losing. I mean, the Chiefs have a MO of blowing games in the playoffs, so you can never be too shocked when a snake-bitten team is snake-bitten. But Pittsburgh's not like that, so that surprised me more.
I hope I'm wrong here, and I'm going to take New England, but I hope I'm wrong.
I, too, am going to take New England in the -9. I think that, again, is a short number. So, Tim, who are you taking?
The Patriots -9. We're going for Super Bowl week to Minneapolis. There's no way that the gods don't make it have to be so that I have to see the Patriots there.
I'd be very willing to be wrong about this one.
Here's the thing, though. You guys could get well, no, because the Eagles would be expensive.
Yeah, the for Super Bowl, like, ratings or people being interested in the game, New England has to be from the AFC side. Obviously, Minnesota would be bigger because
But
it's
isn't
in
the
Minnesota.
Super Bowl evergreen? Do you know one person like, I'm
No,
not
it's not-
going to the party because the Jags are, Brady's not going for
Sure,
12.
but I just mean interest at the stadium. Like Jackson, although there might be Super Bowl fatigue for the Patriots, I just don't know if Jacksonville has the base to travel to Minnesota. And like,
Oh, no, they don't. They don't.
so I'm talking about actually being there.
They don't have the base, and no offense, I don't think it's that wealthy of a fan base. And the Viking fans ticket will skyrocket for Viking fans, but Philly will have like a
Philly will travel.
well, huge.
Yeah.
Just like they went when they played the Patriots. I believe that was in Jacksonville.
It was.
Funny enough, and kind of off topic, but things I think of and things that you're going to be there. All this excitement about the Vikings making a home Super Bowl and how exciting that could be. There's stories out there that the city of Minnesota, it's so bad for them because the residual, tourists, the restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
If you're like, if you live in the burbs, you're not staying in a hotel
No,
and
but,
going out for
but
dinner.
it doesn't matter who makes the Super Bowl either way. The food court business is going to be booming, and the local Chili's is going to be like, oh my god.
I heard, Tim's also, there's some.
We'll reveal that secret later on.
Yeah,
How about that?
Okay,
There's no
fine.
secret to be revealed. There's nothing hidden.
There's stuff hidden. There's stuff below, just a little bit below the surface that the people aren't quite aware of with you, Tim.
I never lie to the people. I am a man of unimpugnable integrity.
So you can't be bought off with Chili's, is what you're saying?
No, I can't be bought off with Chili's. I can't. I have one obligation to the people, and that's to speak my true opinion.
Can I?
Change your pick?
No, now that we're between games, just make one kind of unrelated comment.
Sure.
How come the men of college football wear the best high crown visors, but the coaches in the NFL wear the flimsiest, shittiest loser visors? Anyone in College Town, USA, Georgia, TCU, anyone under the Nike umbrella, hit me up, DM me. I need a visor, high crown, when you go to your team stores. But you see these NFL coaches, they're in these women's unisex visors. High crowns, man. The high crown, Tim, I know Tim's got to respect the high crown.
John
It's like
Rahm was
old-
taking massive heat at Tournament of Champions for wearing the high crown.
Bull, that's bull. That's bull,
I'm a
especially
fan
when
of
you
it.
got hair like mine. The high crown is great. Like when Snedeker wore it, like, oh my God. And
I have a bigger problem with coaches wearing visors and hats indoors at games. It doesn't actually make much sense because you're indoors. But anyway, the high crown is the better visor. And I do, of course, you're making fun of Sean Payton without saying it, wearing his.
well, no. I'm making fun of the
Elton John
visors.
glasses and,
Him wearing his George
gold
Costanza collection glasses, that's a completely different story.
I think the move is for Josh McDaniels this week to flip the visor upside down and wear it sideways like he's Jamie Kennedy in Malibu's Most Wanted. That's the move.
Thank you. Do we have any concern that both Patriot coordinators took head
that's
coaching?
a concern. That's a concern in 2 weeks' time. In fact, that's a significant concern in 2 weeks' time.
Why not this week?
Because they'll have 2 extra weeks of Super Bowl. They're not going to be 100% invested in that Super Bowl
and
prep
next
3
week
weeks after basically having their job. I'm sorry.
It's true.
I actually think that being concerned about the Super Bowl is probably number one priority for themselves.
And also, I mean, I'm skipping ahead, but
that's what they do this for, to win the Super Bowl.
Their biggest concern is that next week they're going to be playing the real best coach in the NFL. And we'll get there when we get there.
All right, next game. Minnesota at Philadelphia. The line right now, at least on 365, is +3 for Philadelphia. I did go to see if Bodog/Bovada was giving the underdog line, and they are. It's 3 and a hook at Bovada if you want to go do that. So if you like the Eagles, that's the place to make that bet. Just, giving the people what they need to know about this. I like Philly. I'm just going to straight up say it. I think it's a close game. I think the game plan is exactly what they did last week against Atlanta. Run the ball a bunch, throw the ball really short, and have Nick Foles make one play or two, and that's going to be game. I know the Vikings defense is good at all levels, but I don't think the Philly's going to do anything stupid and turn the ball over. I can see Philly's defense, which is also excellent and can really attack a quarterback. They'll force Case Keenum into making a really stupid play at some point. And I think that's going to be the difference in this game. I will take the Eagles +3 here.
Agreed. I mean, again, because we've mapped out the path for a Patriots Super Bowl to go through the Titans, the Jaguars, and then Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. I mean, and then we have to pretend like that's an impressive accomplishment.
Winning the Super Bowl is an impressive accomplishment, Tim.
It is, but this is like the easiest.
Oh, yeah. See, all he wants to do is just listen. I'm no Patriots fan, but all he wants to do is, Tim just begs for credit at every turn. All he wants to do is just take away credit from other people because he's petty like that.
I am not being petty. I'm simply making a statement of fact. Now, the reason I like the Eagles in this game, in part, it goes back to last week. I very rarely trust dome teams outdoors in the playoffs, which is what you got here. I think Minnesota won a great, exciting game last week. That was really, if you look at the playoffs time and time again, teams who come off these big emotional victories lose the very next week. Think about that Niners-Saints exciting game in the playoffs a few years ago. The Giants beat them in the championship game. I think more often than not, what you find is that everyone thinks that the Vikings have great momentum, that they've broken some sort of jinx on them. No, they haven't. The Eagles are. I think this is also a bad line. The steam is like it did on Saturday. The steam is going to come in heavy on the Eagles. I think this game probably kicks off at +2, +1.5. Particularly if the Patriots, let's say, don't cover on Sunday, I think all the money in the world is going to come in on the Eagles.
What? No, everyone's betting on the Vikings, you lunatic.
I don't think that's true. I mean, obviously, they're not. The line is already moving down. So obviously, the money is coming in on the Eagles, not the
line.
Vikings.
It opened at 3. It still is 3.
I got 3.5.
And it's still 3.5 in some places. If you see the money start moving towards the Eagles, just like it did last week, just hammer the Eagles.
Yeah,
but that's not going to be because money is piling in on the Eagles. That's sheer reverse line movement because everyone is lining up to bet Minnesota here. Minnesota, the narrative of Minnesota being able to play Nick Foles for a home Super Bowl game, everyone's betting on Minnesota.
It's a bad line. It should be Philly -1.
No, the line isn't. The line isn't that bad. The line is what it should be because if they're 3-point favorite, the Vikings are better than the Falcons, and it's the same line.
And last week,
the Eagles are better than both of them.
By Sportsbook Spy, over 85% of people last week bet on the Falcons. And the line moved towards the Eagles. It's going to be close to the same this week.
I saw it at 69, but whatever. That's all debating and where those numbers are from. I like Minnesota here. Buddy as the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings.
Zimmer.
44-19 against the number. They will just win this game via coaching. Coaching is what will win this game. I see them winning it by over a touchdown. And Tim, I had my hand up. I was hoping the doctor would answer my question when you were going on your rant. That momentum thing's a fine line, but there's two sides of that coin. Did Les Titans not make the Super Bowl after home run throwback?
They did.
Yeah.
Hold on. Did the loser Flacco Elites make the Super Bowl after that loser Bronco corner couldn't
cover Jacoby Jones?
Yeah, slipped or something. Yeah. So it goes both and there's probably more. Just like he's got a few. So I'm not buying into that. They got to feel like the team of destiny, and I am eating it. I'm eating it up. -3, -120, 600 to win 5.
For you.
Yeah.
Philadelphia 24, Minnesota 13. I like Philly a lot in this game. I think they knock them out.
This game's won.
I think that if this is an Eagles win, it's 17-14.
This game is being won right now. This game is being won right now as you're watching this in a room that Mike Zimmer's in charge of.
I just worry that Minnesota's not going to be able to run the ball at all. And then they can, and Philly will have their blitzes, but their run defense is excellent. And they can pressure the quarterback properly enough that, like I said, I just think Keenum, weirdly enough, I think he's a better quarterback than Nick Foles, but I also think he's far more turnover prone than Nick Foles is too. If he's going to have to drop back and pass 35
Yeah, you're right.
times.
Nick Foles is more likely to take that sack to have you at 2nd and 20.
Yeah. Or take the sack to be out of field goal range.
Yeah, and Keenum might do something really stupid where I wish I took that 12-yard lost sack. We see it very similar, except I think the Minnesota Vikings make that play.
Okay.
I think the Vikings make that play.
They made some nice plays on D last week.
What happened last week means jack shit. They lose this one.
All right, so
ain't no miracle, nothing.
So
won't count.
You and the coin are on Minnesota -3. Tim and I are on the Eagles +3. Tim, is that how you're playing it?
Absolutely. Love Philly.
There's no way that the Eagles and the Falcons and the Vikings are the same team.
They're not the same team.
So why am I getting the same number?
Because the number was wrong last week.
Yeah,
I think the number is right this week. But I think that's why I took Philly last week. It just seemed like the wrong number. For a team that let us down all season long with the Falcons.
Let's not pretend the Falcons, they had no drama-free victory. They literally won on the last play because a ball went through Julio's hands. So Minnesota's was more exciting, but the Eagles, it's not like their win lacked drama or last-second excitement.
True, and the defense stepped up when they had to step up at the end of that game.
Yeah, so should be a deuce. I hate this 3:30, 6:30.
Would you prefer
7?
Would you prefer it be Saturday and Sunday instead of back-to-back games?
No, because I think it's one great day. I just wish it was more like 2 and 5:30 or something.
Yeah, exactly. The 2 and 5 is the normal.
No, that'd be your 3 o'clock though. And I loved rewatching the clip last week of him going through the divisional horror and the 5 o'clock game.
Wait, I actually had to bring this up. I threw this out to Twitter, and I got a lot of responses for it. Worst quarterbacks to ever play in a Super Bowl game. And I'm going to disclude Peyton Manning from this, because although he was shit the year...
But didn't he win a Super Bowl after that Super Bowl?
No, I'm talking about the Super Bowl that he won with Denver, that he went to, and he was just awful all year long.
He was also horrible in the one before where they lost.
Yeah, but he was still he was the league MVP that year, I think. Yeah, he was. Against the Bears. He was the league MVP that year.
That's asinine for anyone to put Peyton Manning in that.
Yeah, I get that he was awful the year that they made the Super Bowl and won, but I'm not going to put him in the same category as Rex Grossman. I'm just not. So who do you think they are? Because, Tim, you're the historian when it comes to all these classic Super Bowls. So from even the early Super Bowls, someone shouted out Joe Namath right at you.
Yeah, well, that person is just trying to subtweet me, so I don't believe that.
Did it make you triggered?
I don't get triggered. David Woodley, Tony Eason, Rex Grossman, Jake Delhomme was terrible. You have, of course, Trent Dilfer, Kerry Collins. Of course, Geoff's main man, Stan Humphries.
Hump Daddy.
There's a long list of bad quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. Rex Grossman is the one that people already think of the most.
No. The thing is, the most response I got to it was Dilfer by far.
But people probably see him winning too, right? They see
I think just to play.
No, but I just mean people see that and they quickly resort to the winning ones.
Sure, but then Grossman was a clear number 2.
To Tim's point, no one really remembered Tim Eason, they played the 85
Tony
Bears
Eason.
or Tony Eason.
Yeah. Right. I would be of the position actually that Trent Dilfer wasn't the worst quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
What about Ron Jaworski?
Brad Johnson was the worst quarterback.
But is Brad Johnson a bad quarterback though?
No, I think he's the worst Super Bowl winning quarterback ever. I really do believe.
Now you've already changed the conversation. It's the worst quarterback to play in the Super Bowl. So you can make your own other list and you can put that out on Twitter later.
Hostetler, because he was Sims' backup, right?
Yeah, and David Woodley was.
But they won the game.
It doesn't matter if you win or you're not. Dilfer's going to be on this list.
Eli Manning.
People were throwing out some Eli, which is wrong. There was a couple people who had the hashtag MAGA in their Twitter profiles who just said Colin Kaepernick.
No. I wanted them to win that game badly.
So did I. But that's sort of the thing with Kaepernick, though. Like, Kaepernick for 3 years was really, really good.
Amazing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's hard to put him in that conversation. It's like why I wouldn't include Brad Johnson in that conversation either. Like, he was average. He was an average NFL quarterback for like 10 years. Like, he wasn't just a piece of trash. That's why I wouldn't put Flacco in it either. Like, Flacco's fine. Like, Flacco's an average quarterback. He's not a disaster by any means. But the only reason this gets brought up, because it could be, well, we're going to get one of Keenum or Foles unless last second they use reverse revenge game Mo and put Sam Bradford in the game to beat the Eagles.
Don't you think one of these teams should hire Jeff Fisher to teach the other one how to make that quarterback
Just let
horrible?
Jeff Fisher do the coin toss. That's the move, isn't it?
Shouldn't Fox hire him for the day?
No, that means the Fox broadcast will. Jeff Fisher's basically the living equivalent of the Ander curse.
So he doesn't exist?
Yeah, he doesn't exist. He's lost to time. He only really exists in our minds anymore. But
a Nick Foles, Blake Bortles Super Bowl. I mean, you want to talk about it not affecting ratings? It would. I'm sorry, it just would.
Like the difference
isn't the Super Bowl like evergreen?
Yeah,
How could the rating?
The Super Bowl is evergreen. When Tim tells you stuff about this, he has no idea.
Like the ad rate is going to drop.
The ad rate's not but it will affect future years too, because then you get a baseline of, listen, it's not going to do fewer than like 85 million viewers, but if you have Patriots Vikings, it's probably 110 million. Like there is swing room.
Okay, and next year when it's Patriots 49ers, it's going to be the greatest game ever.
Yeah, but the ad buys all happen way before that.
Exactly.
Then it's based on last year's number, so if it's down, then the ads for that. Anyway,
I see what you're saying.
There is a swing in overall interest in the game if it's Jacksonville, Philadelphia.
100%.
Like the ratings for that are probably 15% less than they are for
like you think
Eagles
that our
Patriots.
buddy with the beach house goes to the game? No one. They can't afford to go to the game.
And they're probably just all hoarding all their money for when Florida plays in the national championship so they can go to that. That'd be my guess anyway.
Yeah, I think they're more Florida State.
Are they Florida State?
Yeah.
Not in Jacksonville. No, Gainesville's just outside of Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's Florida. I know, I'm not.
That's right. That's why Tebow should have been a Gator. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Florida
Take
State
that all
is
back.
Tallahassee.
Sorry, ACC, SEC. Sorry.
Don't apologize to the SEC.
Tim hates the SEC. They're so overrated. All they do is just win national championships.
Yeah, well, when you don't care about academic excellence, except for Vanderbilt, that's the one exception in the SEC. Now, I guess you can have those advantages. Some of us cheer for universities that actually care about academic excellence.
Like Stanford, who's good at football and has good grades.
I have nothing bad to say about Stanford.
And unlike Notre Dame, who everyone on their team just cheats in school, they let them just slide by.
An obvious lie, trying to attempt to trigger me, but I cannot be triggered.
Well,
I cannot be bought off, and I cannot be triggered.
All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience NFL Championship Weekend Breakdown. I'd like to thank Geoff Fienberg for being here. I'd also like to thank, for being on the line, Tim Andergust.
That is not my name.
Heard it was.
No, you didn't.
I did. I just heard it out loud.
It's because you said it.
Yes, did you hear it?
That is his name.
Yeah. See, I had heard that too. And he heard it. So that's 2 against 1. Maybe you just can't hear well.
I hear great. I have super hearing.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Anyway, that'll do it for me. You can follow Geoff on Twitter at GFeinberg17, myself on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the PME. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, Audio Boom, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Tune in. Anywhere where you can download podcasts, you can find the Pat Mayo Experience. Please do that. Rate the show. Give it a like. And you can watch the video versions up on the Draftkings YouTube page. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck and enjoy the football this weekend. I'll see you next time.